Okay, today we're going to talk about major scales. We are actually between caged system lessons here, and what we're doing is we're actually going to give you some information that we'll be able to put together with caged system lesson number 1 in the next lesson. What we're going to do is we're actually going to talk about how a major scale is constructed, and for the way that we're going to go about doing these lessons, we're actually going to use the major scale kind of as a reference point or a touchstone for a lot of the theory, whether it's constructing chords, or improvising or any of that other stuff. The first thing is, typically a major scale it's got a specific sound. What a scale is it's a collection of notes that are set distances from each other that give us a sound. I can play a major scale, I can play a minor scale, I can alter that minor scale a little bit. I can play it as a Dorian. Alright, it's the distances between the notes that give us these different sounds or colors or flavors or however you want to look at them. The first one we're going to deal with is the major scale. It's probably what the majority of your melodies in Western music come out of one way or another, whether it's just being in a major key or if it's a mode or a section of the scale, like a minor scale. The first thing we have to talk about, though, the idea of half steps and whole steps. A half step is basically where we're on one fret and we go up to the next fret. It's the distance between those two notes. A whole step would be from one note up 2 frets. So there's actually going to be a note kind of in the middle there. That's a whole step. If we're on G, a half step up would be G sharp or A flat. A whole step up would be A. G sharp, A. The major scale, if we were to start on G, actually we're going to start on C. We're going to do it with all natural notes to start with. We have this arrangement of whole steps and half steps. We go from the first note, we go up whole step, and then between the third and fourth notes here we have a half step, then whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Your ear's going to tell you when this is not right. But it's important to know what these notes are. The other thing we need to talk about is the idea of scale degrees. And the scale degree basically just tells you what each note is relative to the root or the starting point. In C, C is the root, it's our starting point. D is the second note up, which would make it the second, or the major second. E is the major third, or the third note up from C. C, D, E. F is the fourth, or perfect fourth. G is the perfect fifth. A is the major sixth. B is the major seventh, and then we're back to C, which is the octave. We've gone through all 7 diatonic notes, and we've ended up on the octave. If we were to start on a different note, say we were to start on F, we're going to get a different collection of notes out of this, and this is going to give us a different key. F, a whole step up, would be G. A whole step up would be A. Now we're on the third note going to the fourth, which would be a half step, which would be B flat. Now, this could also be considered A sharp. Whenever we're working on scales like this, we need to have one of each note name. Each of these notes, or these scale degrees, has a name and a function that we're going to learn later versus the root. And if we had an A and an A sharp in the same scale, things would get kind of confusing, with this, especially with this beginning diatonic type theory. So we're going to make sure that there's no note name that's used twice. So here we're on the 4th note, and that is B flat. And then we go up to the next possible note, which would be C. D up a whole step, E up a whole step, and then back to F. So the key of F isn't all natural notes like the C is. Natural notes meaning just C as opposed to C sharp or D flat or any of that stuff. In the key of F we have one flat. We have B flat. So if I'm playing in the key of F, then all the B's will be flat. if I was to start on G, let's see what that gives us. G is the root. Whole step up would be A. Whole step up to the third would be B. Half step would be C. Whole step would be D. Whole step would be E. Whole step up to the seventh note is this, which is F sharp, and then G. Now, if you don't know the natural order of notes as they occur in like the Western 12-tone systems, this might be a little bit confusing. So I'm going to do a little bit of review for you. Basically, every note has a whole step between it and the next note, except for E and F and B and C. So if we're starting on the 6th string, which is an E, when we play it open, the first fret is going to be an F, but then the next fret is actually like a black key on the piano, if you can visualize. And on the blog entry, there's actually going to be a worksheet with some of the stuff on it. You have the white keys on the piano, and then there are the black keys. This would be a black key, and that's what we call a sharp or a flat. The other name for that would be an accidental. Then we have G, and then it's a whole step up to A. So we've got G, G sharp A sharp, B, and then between B and C, there's no black key or no half step. Right, so the next note up from B would actually be C, just one half step. Then we have a whole step to D, whole step back up to E, and it just kind of continues. It cycles like that. That has nothing really to do with us constructing major scales, but I just want to make sure that if you're not aware of the order of those notes, that you go back and you learn that, because otherwise this will get really, really confusing really quickly. Okay, I'm going to do one more scale for you. We're going to start on D, which I'm going to start on the 4th string open, just to give you one more chance to see us using some sharps here. D is open. A whole step between the 1st and 2nd notes would bring us to E, and then a whole step up from that note would be F sharp, because remember, between E and F, that's a naturally occurring half step. There's no black key between there. So we got D, E, F sharp, then we have a half step to the 4th note, which would be G, whole step up to A, whole step up to B. Now here we have B, and then C is a naturally occurring half step. So we have to actually push up to the C sharp to give us the whole step. And then we have a half step back to the D. Keep in mind, once again, if you're not real familiar with your notes on the fretboard, the double dot that you see on most guitars, that is actually your octave marker. That means that you've gone through all 12 pitches that were set up for, and now we're starting back at the beginning. So when you play the string open without any fingers on it, it's going to be the same pitch, an octave lower than the 12th fret on that string.